Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. I'm your host, Rick the Bard, keep bringing you episode 196 here at the Tavern, presented by HeroTaku.com. So I got a news story from January of this year from the Modesto Bee. It's not really that interesting of a story when you kind of look at it on its surface. It is a human interest piece about William Schrufeld. Now, William Schrufeld is the actor who plays Brody on Power Rangers Ninja Steel, the red Ninja Steel Ranger. And it just really talks about him going back to Modesto, visiting friends and family, visiting schools, things like that, and just kind of talking, how far he's come and now that he is a Power Ranger. If you're into that kind of stuff, great. I'd suggest you go ahead and read it. I'm going to have a link to it in the description page. But it's really just, kind of a fluff piece. What is interesting is something that is buried deep within the article, which has great relevance to Power Rangers, and specifically next season's Power Rangers, which, oh, by the way, is the 25th anniversary of Power Rangers. So I will go ahead and quote you guys a passage from that article, and I quote, "On January 15, he returns to New Zealand to shoot the second half of the Ninja Steel story arc through May. That will be the show's 25th anniversary, airing in 2018, with guest appearances of the most popular past Rangers," Schrufeld said. Unquote. So for a fluff piece, that's a pretty interesting, paragraph right there. That's some pretty interesting information. And really, it sounds like that the article should be dedicated to that information as opposed to Brody here. Okay, so guys, we've known for a while that this season is the 24th season of Power Rangers and that next year would be the 25th season of the franchise. That's amazing, guys. I can't believe 25 years already. If you don't feel old, then I feel old right now. That's something there. But with the 25th anniversary, given how we've botched 2 out of the 3 major anniversary events within Power Rangers, I don't think any of us are really expecting anything from the 25th anniversary of the series. I think right now there's so much attention given to the movie, potentially where that's going. And now, of course, there's this article talking about a Power Ranger series for Netflix, which we've heard before, but apparently it actually might have some traction. That a lot of people are not really focusing too much on what's happening with the television series. Frankly, in the last couple of years, the television series has just kind of been in the background, and it's like, oh, it's there, but, there are these other things we want to go ahead and focus on for Power Rangers. Regardless, nobody's really expecting anything from the 25th anniversary. Then we read this, and then all the possibilities start coming in, the thoughts of how good it could be, how bad it can be, what are they going to do, are they actually going to do some fan service, are they going to do justice to the franchise? There's a lot of things to go ahead and talk about, so I'm going to kind of deconstruct this for you guys as much as I can, talking about, my thoughts on what I would like to see in a 25th anniversary, what I would not like to see in a 25th anniversary, and what they will likely do for a 25th anniversary. Before we start there, I do just want to bring up one thing that the article mentions that I do find a little bit odd, guys. It says that he'll be shooting from January 15th through May of this year. So that's a 5-month shooting period, and that sounds about normal, but you guys realize that they already started filming the second season of Ninja Steel before the first season aired? Because what I find odd about that is that they're already filming episodes without getting feedback on what people like or dislike about the first season. Because that's usually what they do, guys, is like when they do the first season, they let the fan reaction come in, see what people think, start making changes. Oh, we want to change this, we need to improve that, get rid of this character, add this character, things like that. But no, they've already started filming without giving a damn about fan reaction, and that worries me a little bit, guys, because, I don't think they listen to us that often. I mean, they listen to us sometimes, but for really important things, yeah, they don't want to listen to us. So I'm a little wary about that to begin with, because now I haven't actually sat down to watch Ninja Steel yet. I know I'm horrible. I'm a horrible fan. Life gets in the way. But from what I've heard, the first 3 episodes, they haven't been that good. So I worry about them filming and doing this without getting an appropriate reaction from the fans on what needs to be improved and what needs to stay. But I digress on that point. Okay, let's talk about this. Here's the first and most obvious thing that I thought about when I read this article, when I read this. Of course, Ninja Steel is being adapted from Ninja. Now, Ninja is not an anniversary series per se. We'll get into that in just a second. It is pretty much a straightforward, Sentai series based on ninjas, and excuse me, and not a particularly good one. I mean, here's the things, like Tokyuger was disappointing. Ninja was just kind of just kind of bland. I really didn't have any real interest in that series, but in the first couple of episodes, they did have an anniversary, because within about the 5th or 6th episode of the series, it was the official 40th anniversary since the airing of Go Ranger back in Japan. And they actually did kind of, they did a 2-part story, or somewhat of a 2-part story, where they kind of acknowledged that, where they had, past Ninja Red Rangers team up with the Ninja, had an appearance by Aka Ranger, kind of linked it into the mythos of the series, and it worked out pretty well, even though it was a Red Ranger focused episode, and we know how those get. So the series, I think, did a pretty decent tribute to the 40th anniversary of the actual franchise of Super Sentai. And then later in the series, we did get some cameo appearances from some other Rangers. Yellow made an appearance within the series. The Green Hurricaneger, and I can't remember his name at the moment, he appeared into the series. And of course, they also did a crossover with another Tokusatsu series, but that's not Power Rangers, but that's neither here nor there. So when I first heard this news that they would have guest appearances, the first kind of thought was, well, they have footage of other Ranger teams, or other Rangers, excuse me, that do appear in the series. So they could possibly use that, but then it wouldn't make much sense. And here's a thought, guys. When we had Ninja Red and Hurricane Red show up, the purpose of that was to have 2 previous ninja masters come in and teach current ninja students how to be real ninjas. That was the whole purpose of that. Well, even with what they're doing with Ninja Steel, you could probably get away with that by having Shane in there as the Red Ninja Storm Ranger, the Red Wind Ranger. But man, you're not going to be able to get Oriko in there, because here's the thing, guys. The Alien Rangers may be space ninjas, but they're not ninjas. Ninja created the ninja powers long before ninjas were an actual thing. You guys do kind of realize that, right? Does that make sense to anybody? It's kind of an odd thing. Even though the Alien Rangers are using ninja powers, they're nowhere near being anywhere relevant to being ninjas at all. Much in the same way the Megaforce Rangers had angel-based powers, or what appears to be angel-based powers, but they're nowhere near being angels within themselves. So a crossover with the Red Wind Ranger and the Red Alien Ranger doesn't make a lot of sense. Plus, here's another thing, guys. They could probably get the actor who played Shane to come back, because he's probably still in New Zealand, but they ain't going to get David Bacon to come back. If they couldn't reach out to David Bacon to be in the 10th anniversary, for Forever Red, do you guys really think they're going to reach out to him to be in the 25th anniversary for a 1-episode appearance and fly him down to New Zealand? I mean, guys, I hate to be a pessimist on that, but seriously, I mean, I don't think they're going to go ahead and do that, because they just don't really care about the Red Alien Ranger. It's kind of odd. In recent years, they've really kind of been pushing the Alien Ranger stuff a lot more. We've been getting those, figures for the 20th anniversary and everything in Super Mega Force and the Ranger Keys. They have those appearances. It's kind of odd, but it's also, they're still one of those forgotten Ranger teams that people just don't seem to care about too much. But I digress on that. I would also point out that the appearance of our Green Samurai Ranger, as he would be known here in the United States, does not make more than like a single action appearance within that episode, so there really isn't any type of usable footage to go on. And I say that because you guys know how I would be like, well, film something new, but this is Neo Saban we're talking about, and that seems a little unlikely that they would do filming of new footage for a practical purpose. And in practical purpose, like, putting the red Mighty Morphin suit with other Sentai suits, yeah, they would do that. But for something that actually makes sense, no, I can't see them doing that. And then we have the appearance of the green Mystic, or excuse me, the yellow Mystic Force Ranger Chip. I think Nick Sampson is still doing voice work for Power Rangers here and there. Again, he was available and did some work in Super Mega Force, but I just don't see them bringing him back as the yellow Mystic Ranger in any capacity. I mean, I would love to go ahead and see it, but I just don't see them doing that, and I don't see them filming some scenes with him in there, whether he's in a suit or not. So, while the first inclination is to think, yeah, they're going to go ahead and take these Rangers that they have footage for and actually do some episodes around them, one, it doesn't make sense for some of the characters, and two, I just don't see them doing that. It just doesn't seem like that would be something they were doing. Plus, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't seem likely that they are the most popular past Rangers. I mean, I like Chip, don't get me wrong. I've come around to him over some of the other Mystic Force Rangers in the past, but I just don't think he's popular enough for them to bring down to New Zealand. They might be able to pay him, unlike, meeting demands of, say, Jason Frank or Amy Jo or something like that, but I just don't see that happening. Here's what I would like to see out of this potential 25th anniversary with cameo appearances of past Rangers. The first thing I would like to go ahead and bring up is I think what they need to do is they need to acknowledge that Ninja Steel and that the rest of the Power Rangers universe exists, and that Ninja Steel exists within this greater universe. The weird thing is, what we've been having with a lot of these Ranger teams in recent years, and going back to the Disney era, is a lot of these conflicts are self-contained conflicts. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at Ninja Steel, and again, I haven't seen it, but based on my readings of reviews and things like that, and the premise, we're talking about a game show recruiting monsters and fighting against the Rangers and stuff. That seems like a pretty small focus, something that's only happening to one team of Rangers, to one specific area. Let's go ahead and take a look at Dino Charge. We're looking at a bounty hunter who is trying to get a hold of Dino Gems from a specific group of Rangers. It doesn't affect the rest of the world. It doesn't affect the other characters. Sure, the ending had a scope that affected the world, but what I'm saying is that's a very self-contained event. Much in the same way you go back to Turbo, how Divatox was a very self-contained event in the Turbo Rangers, because her whole thing was getting revenge on the Turbo Rangers for killing Malagor. That was a very small focus. But look at some of the more popular seasons and the focus that we had there. We had Zeo, which had the Machine Empire trying to go ahead and conquer Earth, and the ramifications that meant, as well as the Rangers traveling, or having help from other planets like Aquitar, Triforia, the Horta planet. You had different planets that were involved in a conflict, and something that seemed to spread beyond the galaxy, because Gasket wasn't just getting the Rangers to fight in his gladiatorial arena for King for a day. He wasn't just getting Red Ranger there, but he had other aliens from other worlds. Earth is the last link in a chain of galaxies that the Machine Empire are trying to go ahead and conquer. The scope of what's happening is much bigger, but we're narrowing the focus on what the Rangers are doing to stop this threat at this stage. Power Rangers in space. Again, they're trying to find Zordon, that's their primary mission, but there's this invasion that's going across the galaxy. It begins with the Battle of Eltar and the capturing of Zordon, and culminates in the full-out assault on the universe, and we're just kind of following from the start to the end of that, but the ramifications are going beyond just the Rangers. They're going to what's happening on Eltar, what's happening with the Equations when they're attacked by Divatox, what's happening with the KO-35 Rebels, the Psycho Rangers getting involved. It's a broad-spanning thing. Even Lost Galaxy, which is limited to just the Terra Venture, they're still traveling the galaxy. Other planets are being involved, mythology is being brought out, characters are being brought into the conflict. So the more popular seasons, I believe, are when the conflict is broader, when more important things are happening. Now, of course, Super Mega Force, which is the entire Earth being attacked, it doesn't feel that way is still a bad season, but again, we've already went into to why that's bad. So I think for the 25th anniversary, to make it important is we need to broaden the scope of whatever the conflict is. Let's say for the sake of argument that we have a past ranger show up. Let's say it's Carter Grayson. I love Carter. I love Lightspeed Rescue. I'm going to use him as an example. Let's say he shows up and ends up meeting the Ninja Steel Rangers. I don't want the cameo to be something to the effect that they're fighting a fire-based monster. Fire gets set to a bunch of buildings, and Lightspeed Rescue comes in to put out those fires, and Carter is the head firefighter there. He morphs into the Red Ranger to extinguish the fire, and he salutes them and says, "Thank you for your service." And they're like, "No, thank you, because you are one of the older Power Rangers." That is something that I imagine that they would go ahead and do if given the opportunity. But what needs to happen is, say, Olympius or Banshira are trying to escape from the Shadow World, and the Ninja Steel Rangers become involved with this. They have a special artifact. The Ninja Steel that they're using could be used as a key to open up the Shadow World again and let these monsters, let these demons out. Suddenly the entire world is at stake by demons, or maybe they are let out and the Ninja Steel Rangers are being overran, and then they're going to need some help. They bring in the Lightspeed Rangers out of retirement to get involved with this conflict, and that's where you get the two Ranger teams together, or even it's just Carter, who, in a small effort, is trying to contain this, and it comes down to one man that has to go ahead and do this. But again, it has to be like an entire episode, or maybe a two-part episode, in which the scope is broadened out. So that's just one example off the top of my head. Here's another one. Let's go back to Zeo. Let's go back to Gasket. You guys realize that Gasket and Archery were never destroyed in Zeo, right? They just disappeared. We never saw them again. Well, what if Gasket, after years of planning and plotting, has rebuilt the Machine Empire? Different from what General Vengeance was doing, but he comes back, comes to Earth, wants to conquer it, because it's like, you guys killed my father, you killed my brother, you killed my mother, and you Rangers embarrassed me, so now I'm going to take your planet from you. Typical villain plot, not a big deal. But what if we had a mass invasion by the Machine Empire, by Gasket, and not only do our Ninja Steel Rangers have to get involved because they're overwhelmed by the numbers and maybe the superior technology of what the Machine Empire has now become, but then other Ranger teams have to get involved. The Zeo Rangers come out of retirement. The Equishing Rangers come back to Earth because of an alliance that we have since the GSA. Or the Galaxy Rangers from Marinoid come in. Heck, why don't the Ninja Steel Rangers, because space is involved, they go to Marinoid and get involved with what's happening on that planet? That's what I'm talking about, guys. These are just ideas I've had top of my head where we need to expand the scope of what's going on to make it feel like there's a greater universe, there's bigger stuff going on out there, and that our Ninja Steel Rangers are a very important part, but still a small piece to the overall narrative of what the Power Rangers are in this universe. That's what I'm ultimately talking about. That's what I think needs to go ahead and happen with the 25th anniversary. That there needs to be a couple of episode arcs where one ranger or multiple rangers come back, maybe a whole team gets involved into a greater narrative. And you can easily have the other ranger teams because, again, they are in the suits, so it could be this great battle where they show up, again, much in the same way we did with the legendary battle, but have greater stakes. Because, guys, even in Super Mega Force, there were no stakes in that final battle. The Emperor was defeated. The Space Fleet was defeated. These were just the scraps, the last remaining remnants. And what were a bunch of X-Borgs going to do anyway? That they needed all the Ranger teams. It needs to be something significant. It needs to be something dealing with the apocalypse, maybe. I don't know. There's got to be something involved in there where we have this grand scope that justifies what we're doing. Because a lot of people are always pointing out, well, the reason we don't see other Ranger teams is because, well, it's a small-scale thing. They don't feel the need to get involved, which is contrary to what was happening in Super Mega Force. But again, I digress. I mean, you go ahead and think about it, look into, the Disney area. era, excuse me, is there any reason that the Dino Thunder Rangers need to get involved with what's happening in Briarwood? That seems like a small occurrence that's just happening within that town. It has big consequences, but all they ever see is them just fighting demons. Usually when invasions from space and whole empires are involved, the stakes are a little bit bigger, and you have to those stakes have to be known. That's another thing, too. So that's what I want to see. I want to see something like that. But here's a thought that I had, and I've seen a couple of people talk about this over the last couple of years, and it hasn't really gained any traction from most people, but here's something that needs to happen. Saban needs to contact Austin St. John, David Yost, Amy Jo Johnson, Walter Jones, and Jason Frank. Find a way to get those 5 together, get them to New Zealand, and have the 25th team, the 25th anniversary team, be the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers crossing over with the Ninja Steel Rangers. That, to me, if you don't have a big space invasion or anything like that, or time travel or anything like that, if you can get Jason and the others to come back, to acknowledge the team, to fight alongside, and show that time actually exists and time does pass, that, to me, I think would be good enough for even a single episode. This could be the next Forever Red, basically. Now, I know what you guys are thinking about the hurdles involved. Yes, Thuy Trang has passed away. We can't bring her back. We'd have to figure out something for that. And no, bringing back Karen Ashley would not be the solution to that problem. I don't know how we would handle it. I've talked about it in the past. That video is unfortunately no longer up, but it has to be something that acknowledges that Trini is no longer able to be a Power Ranger, whether Trini in that universe is dead or whatever. Yes, I know that Jason Frank will probably be demanding too much money, as would Amy Jo, and Amy Jo has still tried to distance herself a little bit from that role, even though she's kind of embracing it a little bit. And yes, I do know David Yost and his issues with the franchise, but, guys, an apology and, a little bit of bowing to whoever demands that David has might actually change something like that. I mean, again, it's David's decision. I'm not going to tell him what needs to go ahead and happen, but man, Saban needs to be bending over backwards to appease this guy, to say, hey, we need you. You are Billy. You are the original Blue Ranger. We are sorry for everything that we ever said or done. What can we do to make it up to you so that you can come back? That's what Saban's attitude needs to be with David. And I really hope that somewhere in the future that those two sides can make peace for something like this to go ahead and happen. And of course, just for David himself, I don't know. I mean, David seems to be at peace with everything right now, and that's great. But guys, we would love to see Billy come back in some capacity. I just kind of want to see how that would happen. So even though there are those obstacles, there are those problems we have to go through, here's the thing. One of my professors once told me that filmmaking is problem solving. You have to shoot a movie that takes place in Japan, but we don't have visas and we can't fly to Japan, so we gotta shoot in Utah. Find a way to go ahead and make that work. We have a movie that has a bunch of monsters, but we don't have the budget to animate all the monsters. What are we gonna do? Find some other way to go ahead and do it. It's all problem solving. You want to get the 5 of the original 6 Power Rangers back for cameo appearance or crossover event. You find a way to make that happen. And Saban, yes, you have money. You are cheap as hell, but you have money. Use it for once. Okay. That's the kind of stuff that I would like to see happen for 25th anniversary of Power Rangers. Now, based on the comments, based on the track record, here's what I think is probably going to go ahead and happen. I think we're going to get something very similar to what they did in Super Mega Force, but changed in a different way. Here's what I'm thinking is going to go ahead and happen. I don't think we're going to get anybody from the original Saban era, from the Zordon era of Power Rangers. Would we get somebody like Johnny Young Bosch to go down there, or Karen Ashley or something? I think certainly that's a possibility, but I don't think any of the American actors from the first 10 years are probably going to go ahead and end up showing up for this. Simply because they don't want to go ahead and pay them, and with the fiasco that happened with Super Mega Force, I don't think they're going to try this again. Because if they really want to do that, we have already heard something by now. We would have heard confirmation that somebody's down in New Zealand that filming's done. Because guys, it's February. They have 5 months to shoot this. If they're going to do something similar to what they did in Legendary War, we would have already heard about it. Excuse me again. What is likely going to happen is they're going to start pulling people from Ninja Storm onward. Actors who are still in New Zealand, who are still active in acting, who are in good terms with the production crew, and are going to go ahead and work for a pittance. I have no idea who those people are. I don't know who's still acting really. I don't know who's going to be doing whatever and stuff, but it just seems likely to me that they're going to go ahead and get people that they will work for cheap. And it will likely be something that would not involve fight footage. Because let's bring this up, guys. As I talked about, the Magi Yellow did appear in Ninja. Let's talk about what happened in that episode. Cloud is basically babysitting the daughter of the headmaster or one of the students. I forget exactly how it is of the Magic Academy that he attends in Europe. And she comes in, gets captured, and all that. And what we see is that the head of this Magic Academy turns out to be Magi Yellow. He comes in, he's like, what the heck is going on here? Oh, they got it handled. There's no need for me to get involved. Just kind of stands there, and at the end of the episode, takes her back to Europe, transforms, and flies out on his magic broomstick. That is it. That is the end of it. And I imagine that's exactly how it's going to happen with Power Rangers. So, let's say they did get Chip in there, for the sake of argument, and they're going to do exactly what happened here, that they're going to have a battle, and that Chip comes in because it's somehow connected to Mystic Force. I don't know how. He comes in and goes, wow, they're fighting down there. I don't need to help them. They got this thing handled. Plus, I'm retired. And then he either never meets the Ranger team, or he morphs into the Yellow Ranger in either a reused shot, or just some guy standing there in the costume not really doing anything. Because if they bring these guys in, I don't see them doing any action sequences of any kind. I don't see them filming new stuff for this, because they were so minimalistic in filming new stuff when they did Super Mega Force, and they did stuff that made no sense. Guys, remember the red Mighty Morphin Power Ranger with 4 other Sentai suits? Yeah, they couldn't be bothered to just use the footage of the Sun Vulcan character, and they couldn't be bothered to film new footage, so all they did was make insert shots and just shots of them standing, and no real actual fight footage, new footage, other than him fighting the big bad, the Nadira, I forget her name, and it doesn't really matter, does it? It doesn't matter, because she was pointless within the series too, and that fight was pointless. And that's what I see them doing, guys, just bringing in these characters for maybe a line or two, or a quick, hey, I exist, spy, see ya. That was a great first class ticket worth buying. It's going to be quick, it's going to be cheap. They might do something to acknowledge past Power Rangers, but it sounds like they would do something similar to the episode where they find Tommy's diary, and it's just like a history of Power Rangers. That seems to be the only thing I think that they would go ahead and do here. I honestly don't see them spending the necessary time, energy, and money to make an appropriate 25th anniversary series. I just don't see them doing that. And again, the most popular past Rangers, well, popular to who exactly? Because, guys, here's another thing I want to go ahead and bring up. Despite the fact that we love the Mighty Morphin era, again, I don't think they're going to bring in Mighty Morphin era Rangers, again, because of all the things I mentioned before. Would they bring in some Disney era characters that, might be popular? Like, well, not even Disney characters, but Neo Saban characters like Jaden or Shelby or Troy? Would they bring those in because the younger audiences are more, familiar with them? Because guys, here would be a weird thing is like, you could bring Shelby into Ninja Steel and that would be perfectly fine. I like Shelby. I have no issue with her. But then you don't need an explanation on who she is. You just gotta say, "Oh, I'm Shelby the Pink Ranger," and that's it. You would probably have to have some explanation on who Joel Rawlings is, or Kai Chen, or Andros. You would probably have to have an explanation on who Carlos is. You would have to do that for some of the younger audience viewers. And as much as I hate to admit it, they seem to be skewing more towards the younger viewers, and where with each progressing year, we seem to be getting further and further away from the other seasons. Because it seems to be there's Mighty Morphin, the Neo Saban series starting with Samurai, and everything in between is just filler. Like on Oreo Cookie. It's like you have the two ends and everything in the middle. That doesn't matter. They just want to kind of tend to forget it. So if they did bring somebody in, it would be Mighty Morphin, but they wouldn't do it because they wouldn't pay to do that. So they would probably bring somebody that they've had in recent years that the younger audience is familiar with to do these appearances, and they'll say they're popular Rangers because, oh yeah, everybody liked them from the last season. And again, this is coming from Schreufeldt's statement. Now, as far as the past, I mean, that's not a statement from Saban. That's not a statement from anybody other than our Brody here. So, was it something he was told to say? Was it something that slipped out? What does he know that's coming up? And what is his actual knowledge of Power Rangers? Because that's actually a good question to ask, Did he grow up watching the originals? I mean, I think he's too young for that. So obviously he didn't. What era was he watching where he wanted to be the Red Ranger? He wanted to be the Blue Ranger or anything like that. Who are the most popular Rangers in his mind? Because again, I say Carter is probably a popular Ranger, but I could be wrong, and that's my opinion based on it. Others will say, well, Mac is a popular Ranger, or Cam is a popular Ranger. I could be wrong. They could be right. Who knows? Again, that seems like a very objective term. So, guys, I think I've said what I've needed to say on this. It's great that they're actually thinking about it. I think that's going to be kind of the bottom line. It's like, it's going to be great that we actually have a 25th anniversary. But I think above all, I hope they learn from their mistakes. I hope they look at Forever Red. They look at Once a Ranger. And they look at all of Super Mega Force. And they realize what they did right and what they did horribly, horribly wrong. And that they can fix those. Because, guys, here's the thing. I've already have a couple of my friends and fans who have lost faith in Power Rangers, and thus they're not watching Ninja Steel, they're not watching the series, they're not following it except for the toys and maybe the movies. That's all they're really kind of following at this point. And I don't blame them. I honestly don't. Now, I'm a diehard fan. I'll never give up on Power Rangers, no matter how bad they get. Again, I made it through RPM and Super Mega Force, guys, so I'd like to think I'm a diehard fan, so I'm not going to give up on the series here, but I lose faith in the series. If we come out with this 25th anniversary and it's the same mistakes over and over and over again, it's the same thing that happened with Super Mega Force, it's the same thing that happened with Once a Ranger, I'm just going to lose faith in the franchise. Doesn't mean I'll stop loving them, doesn't mean I'll stop watching them or stop this show, but I just can't look at something that says, oh, we made these bad mistakes, we're going to do the same thing again, screw you if you don't like them. Because, guys, this season may be better than Dino Charge objectively or subjectively, whatever, and stuff like that. But the point is that they're trying to make it better than the last. Nobody goes into something saying, well, let's just screw it, we'll make it worse, it doesn't matter. No, they got to go in with the mentality of, let's do better than we did last year. We made these mistakes, this is the thing that we fixed, let's go in, let's do this. This is what fans like, this is what we know works and what doesn't work. Let's make this better. they gotta have the mentality that every season should be better than the last one. Like the Marvel movies, I think a lot of people go that each progressing movie is better than the last one that came out. The stakes get higher, the stories get better, everything just is upped every time you go. And in a weird way, you can say that about the Star Wars movies, starting from Episode 1. Honestly, start Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones is better, Revenge of the Sith better, A New Hope is better, and then Empire Strikes Back is better, and in some cases, Jedi is a little bit better. It just progressively gets better as you continue to go. That needs to be the mentality that Power Rangers has going forward, and if they don't have that mentality, then I just kind of lose faith in that, and I don't know, guys. I really don't know. Okay, so that's all I have to really go ahead and say on the subject. Again, I have the article link down there, but I want to know what you guys think. What do you want to see in an anniversary series, and what do you think they're likely going to go ahead and do based on the track record? Leave some comments below. Let me know. Otherwise, I want to thank you guys for listening. Have a good evening, and the tavern is now closed.